and I would score myself out of 10. I have, it's not a pitch for anyone listening, but I have a planner that does this. It's got a list of things, and it's like health, wealth, business, relationships, network, friends. There's a list of things, and I score myself out of 10 every month. And my goal is just to move a couple of those scores up a decent chunk.
Something that, what I found is that as we've grown the Awaken Man project, we want to redefine men's work. That's, redefining men's work and what it means. Welcome to the Awaken Man podcast. You join me, Mr. Benjamin Owen, Mr. Peter Taylor, and we have our special guest. He is very special.
Can I say that's already the worst intro possible? Thanks, gents.
It's Mr. Dan Meredith. Dan, welcome to the Awaken Man podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, gentlemen.
Guys, can I just welcome in Dan? Dan, I found Dan on a podcast many, many, many years ago. I don't know whether I ever told you that. That's how you came into my world. I think he called himself back then Grenade J.
Yeah. With Jamie. Yeah.
Jamie's podcast. I listened to that it was like 8 years ago. And this geezer turned up on the podcast as a guest and just like talk business, talk sense, but also threw in a load of swear words. And I'm like, yeah. I like this guy. And then that was it. The rest is history.
Thank you.
I was like, I followed you from afar, and then I messaged you.
Sounds a little bit creepy.
Yeah, I did.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
I really did. This is legit. I followed you from afar, just making sure, and then one day, I think I liked the post, and you messaged me, and I was like, oh my God, Dan Meredith has messaged me. And you rang me up, and we talked. And I think you were getting ready to go out, and you gave me loads of helpful advice. And I was like, holy shit. It was literally blew my mind at that point in my life when I was just starting my business, and it was really helpful.
Well, I'm glad it made an effect.
Well, yeah, it did. And that's who you are as a person. Isn't it? I've noticed that since we've been working with you, that's how you roll. You just serve people.
Yeah, because that's how I got to where I am, to be honest with you. I mean, most people want the end result without doing the work to get there. And in all honesty, when I started, I went to events, went to masterminds, I bought digital products, I got coaching courses, all sorts of things. So I was like, right, I want more from my life. And I saw all these people on stages and these people I looked up to, and I'm like, wow, emailing, thousands and tens of thousands of people, they blew my mind. And I honestly really didn't have any idea how to get to where I am now. But my logic was, well, if you just help enough people in time, it will work. That was always my philosophy. If I just just give enough value and show up and serve long enough, then something good would happen. And it did.
Yeah. Could you share a little bit about because obviously Coffee with Dan, Espresso with Dan has been incredibly successful. And what would you say was the basis of what made it just such a successful community?
A functional alcohol problem. I joke about that, but yeah, so it came from, I did have a little bit of an issue with the drink, not in a way that I was unable to do things. It was the opposite. I was drinking quite an aggressive amount of Grey Goose, like a bottle a night at one point, but still running a very successful business, showing up for coaching calls, going to the gym. I think the term functional alcoholic was one of the worst things I ever heard, because I was like, well, this is fucking fantastic. I can just be smashed all day long and still grow a business and help people. Wicked. Glad to say I don't believe in that anymore. But it came from two things. So number one was I'm a pretty good reader of people and the market and what's needed. And I remember going to a coffee shop below where I lived to work every day, because I would just get out of the flat, go downstairs, I'd do my work, I'd come back up. And I was like, there was just no other entrepreneurs. I couldn't connect with any other business people. I went to a couple of those, breakfast meeting type places, and I was just like, dear fucking God, this is not me. And I couldn't basically find people like me. So, in the typical entrepreneurial spirit, I thought, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And that's where I thought I was going to do something. I didn't know where it was. And my drinking was just wasn't getting out of hand, but I was, you a bit too much. But one of the things I am really good at is keeping my word. I do what I say I'm going to do, and I do it on time. So I thought to myself, all right, if I just created a little Facebook group, and I'm going to show up, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I think it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to do 2 work blocks together. It's going to be a bit of accountability. And basically what I said is, if you help me stay accountable, so, I will not drink, because I'll be then getting up in the morning wanting to show up. I said, I'll teach you something every day. You help me stay accountable, and we all help each other. And that was the idea. So it was a case of a bit of loneliness, as in couldn't find other people like me, a bit of isolation, coupled with the fact that I wanted some accountability for myself. And I thought, well, I'd had a very successful agency before that. I thought, well, I'll teach you some of the stuff that I've learned and we'll go from there. And then I think within a week, 500 people joined and I was like, what the fuck? And then it just kind of snowballed from there, really.
Yeah, I think that was the same for The Awakened Man for me. And like, this is like one of the crux of the conversations we want to have today is like, I was looking for a men's group. I wanted to do some personal psychological work. I wanted to work on how I was feeling. And I went round a load of men's groups and they just didn't fit with who I wanted to have that conversation with. You're smiling. So if you're listening to this, there's a smile that's just come up on Dan's face because I'm sure we're gonna get into this in a second. But I couldn't find that group of men, and I tried it in the woods. I tried going to various yoga studios, and it just didn't happen for me. And so I was like, right, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna build it. And then that's how I met Pete, who'd already found that, and created that group of people. And that's something that, what I found is that as we've grown the Awakened Man project, we want to redefine men's work. That's, redefining men's work and what it means. And as we've chatted with Dan over the last couple of years, we've noticed you've got a huge passion for this.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to ask you, what do you see in the men's workspace and like this kind of space that we're in, and what are some of your opinions?
I mean, my main thing is I want everyone to be happy. Men, women, any other genders that people choose to associate with, whatever you believe in, whatever you are, whatever is between your legs or in your head, I honestly don't care. I just want everyone to be happy and have growth based on the things they believe in and the things they love. So when I was smirking on the camera there, for example, I think doing work on yourself is really important. And I think actually self-growth and self-development is a big part of maturity. And obviously it allows you to be a better person. Better person you are, more you impact more people with your life, your business, your relationships. I think it's good. It's good stuff. But I had a similar kind of thing. And the thing is, right, when I say this, for anyone who's into this, tongue in cheek. Okay, we got to be able to laugh at things and stuff. So if you want to wear harem pants, sit in a circle, have a nice hug, chant, cry, there's nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, I'm fucking really happy that you found someone that works for you, okay? But for me, I think similar to you as well, I was kind of like, this is not me. And I tried stuff like that. I was like, not really me. There's more of a spiritual side than I've sort of let on, but not really for me. Then equally, and again, not naming names, but the idea of getting a bunch of guys all dressing in black together, going on the beach and having a little bit of pat of cakes and fisticuffs, pretending they're fucking Marines or some bullshit when they're not. Shut up, okay? You haven't been to war. You're in a construction company. Relax. It's okay. Again, if it works for them, and again, I hope you can hear my humor, listeners. If it works for you and you love those sort of brands, awesome. But I felt there was some sort of middle ground that was missing. And I've read a lot with my day job, I read a lot of books on, business and mindset and entrepreneurship. I read a lot of relationships books as well, because it's all done the same thing with coaching. And I just felt there is, again, depending on what media sources you have or what you consume, there's a lot of vilification of men right now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Men have done some really fucking shitty things, okay? And one of my things, I like to learn from lots of people. So I spoke to lots of different people and ages and genders and all sorts to kind of see their perspectives. But there's a lot of men who feel very marginalized, very isolated. They don't have, and I fucking hate this word, but it's just the only word, it is a safe space. And I'll just say this right now. This is to you guys as well. If you ever say the phrase container, for you, I will find you and I will fight you, okay? But
on the beach.
Again, on a beach, yeah. Wearing matching black outfits. So I will sort of say, one of the things is that there's less places for men to be men and be vulnerable in a safe thing, because again, I've had my vulnerability in the past used against me. So I've kind of I'm not going to be fucking open with any of you bastards anymore, because it'll get used against me. So I'm going to I put more and more walls up, and it's like you end up becoming really isolated, left alone with your own thoughts, especially for those of you who are listening who maybe have your own business or are growing yourself. You don't maybe feel you can talk to people about things, or, you can't share your problems because you don't want to come across as weak or a failure or anything like that. And I just, one of the statistics, I'm sure you've spoken about it on other podcasts, is, the whole male suicide rate. I think it was, Men's Day recently. I barely saw anything about it on social media at all. A few posts here and there. Celebrating a man is now seen a little less popular right now. I'm actually really proud of being a man. I think as much as men can do terrible things, we can do fucking wonderful things. And just as women are, men are needed too. We are all needed. We're all valid. And I think that men have, taken a bit of a beating over the last few years, and, being proud to be a man and have good quality masculine qualities, like loyalty, like strength, like having a good character, like being a provider, like protecting people, being a good man is something that's really important. And, one of the things, and I'm not going to go off on some conspiracy theory bullshit here, but, a lot of stuff I see in like adverts and even films and stuff, it's like, men are getting portrayed as kind of weak, useless characters. I think I remember seeing, it might have been I don't want to say a brand name, but let's just say a cleaning product where the man is useless and he's not able to clean this thing, and the woman comes in and there's quite a lot of adverts like that. And I'm like, hold on a minute, we're not shit. Yeah, I'm not good at some stuff and I hold my hands up. There's loads of stuff I'm not good at. But equally, men do some pretty fucking amazing things in society as well. And I think we do need a place where we can both be open, celebrate being men, and also share with others in a kind of, like we used to do back in the day. We had men's spaces and there were, so you could be yourself and share things and talk about things, which is why I gravitate towards like kind of old school gyms. It's why I box. I kind of like that masculine energy, and I can be myself around those people. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the question you asked me was, because I've gone off on what's known, listener, as it's called as a tangent, where I start on one thing and off I go. But I just think, trying to sum it up, there's quite a large chunk of men and day to day. So my day job is I run a coaching group, mastermind. I actually own a gym and a few other little businesses as well. But I work one-to-one private client with sort of like business mentorship sort of thing. And I have some really, really successful clients, really, really on paper, multi-millionaires, all the things, all the trappings of success, wonderful partner, great kids, all this kind of stuff. And they don't have anyone to talk to. So as much as I help them with their business, a lot of what I'm doing is helping them get clear on themselves and understand why they do things, and actually giving them an hour a week of selfish time where they can just be, and I can help them get clear in their head. And I think that's why it's important, because yeah, there is a premium cost to that. My time has a cost, but I think, the whole men's work and being able for men, it needs to be more accessible, and more people need access to it without thinking that they're soft or weak, or that it's maybe in some way effeminate or something like that. Again, nothing is wrong with feminine energy. I love the polarity between, masculine and feminine energy. I think it's important. But, final things, I do think a lot of men have forgotten or not been shown or not had the guidance to be men. And I'll say that myself. There were times where I was, my behaviors were not appropriate. I was acting out of scarcity and fear. I was being a little bitch at times, and I had to have a kind of tune up to get myself back on track as a man.
I think that happens though to guys. Like I started my first business as a boy, and I've created this business as a man, and I feel different about that business. I think that's a big step for. I think there's something you alluded to a lot in what you're sharing there, is that there's so many men that could be helped by like the work what we're doing. We get men getting together, talking about success, parenting, relationships, wealth, but the space is really unattractive, and I think that's why they don't want to get involved. And that's what I think is the sad part. And when you see these other things where there are guys in the woods banging drums, and as Pete says, and it isn't Pete can talk to this a bit more. There's so much jargon and off-putting words and picture that, like, I'd say 90% of guys, maybe even more, are never gonna get involved with.
It's also just knowing about it, right? Because before we started The Awakened Man, I had no fucking idea what men's work was. I'd never heard of it, right? All I was looking for was a space to be around other guys. It wasn't even other guys, like it was just other people, right, that were high achievers, that wanted to achieve more. I wanted to be involved in masterminds, right? And I joined a couple of masterminds, just couldn't find my people. They just weren't right for me. So I was like, well, we'll just start our
They're
own.
often dick swinging competitions. It's like, I've been parts of those masterminds, and it's like, I found this like we're truly sort of successful. We're just like, success is defined in different ways. Like, I mean, I've got a group of friends I go play badminton with each week, and they will see, they're all my old school friends, yeah. And I'd say if you were to put numbers down, so let's just say, income, then I'm, my group of friends, I'm doing the best in that way. And you always kind of like, so they're like, oh, you doing it? And I said, like, boys, but listen, you've got an amazing wife, a wonderful home. You've got a really good job that you actually really like. Your children are fucking amazing. Like, I don't have kids at the moment. It's something that I'm hoping to in the next few years. But like, and I've said to you two as well, you're great dads, you're good men. That's why I wanted to work with you in a professional capacity as well, because I only really associate with people that I respect. And, success is defined in different ways with different people. But that is an amazing success as well, is bringing up quality children, being a provider, having a good home, being a good husband, being a good friend. And all my boys, and we said this, like, they don't, they're normal guys, normal, nice, lovely guys. They're not exposed to the world we're in at all. But it's taken months. But even now, they're starting to open up with me about, their issues and their problems. And our little Thursday night session is like something that, it's hard to do. I'm often knackered by then from, weeks of, a whole week of helping others. I love it, but it does, it drains you. Your kind of brain kind of starts to get a little bit melty towards the end of the week. They have children. We all don't live near each other, but we really make a concerted effort to be together and just have places where we can talk and you can get advice given without someone trying to whip their fucking digital dick out and swing it around and say how fucking fantastic they are. I've got, this income, that Lambo, this looking partner, this out fucking whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, and if you've achieved those things, that's brilliant. Like, I'm all for like going for everything you can get. And if that's what you want, fucking do it. And I hope you get it. But actually finding a group of people who are successful and who aren't, trying to, show off or think they're better than the other as well. And it is hard because if a lot of people who have a business based on their personality, they're the leader, they don't want to appear weak. They don't want to, make people worry about them. They don't share things with their partner because they don't want them to turned off by them or think they're failing or plant seeds of doubt that, oh my God, they're struggling a bit now. Should I kind of look elsewhere? Because humans are humans at the end of the day. We all go through bad periods of time. I'm not having a poke at anyone. Works both ways. But you do struggle to be able to sometimes be open with the right people because you're like, could this be used against me? Is this something that's going to bite me in the ass later down the line? And then you kind of bottle it up. And I have a friend, I'm going to be as vague as that, who's had his wife been struggling with stuff, some of his business things. He's on the surface, fine. Business is doing good, lovely, happy family, awesome. Yeah, his wife, seriously bad mental health issues. Like I feel empathy for it, and he's just shouldered it. Then one of his kids has got some issues at school, shouldered it. Business during the COVID times took a little bit of a fucking hit, shouldered, and he's just taking this pressure on and on and on and on. And now he's got an ulcer.
I was going to
Got
say
an actual ulcer,
that's
and his doc has said it's stress.
Yeah.
And you know who he's talked to? No one. I was the first person he fucking spoke to about that.
Yeah, it's fucking lonely. I had this, my previous business, I was lonely. I was really lonely. It's part of the reason I was looking for like a mastermind. I was looking for something like, because I didn't have many people around me that I could just go, do you know what? Fucking hell, we've got to meet payroll this month. And I'm thinking about it and it's hard. Or this has happened in my relationship and I just need someone to talk to. And you bottle it and it gets real lonely. And we did a podcast a while ago on conversations and how to be a good listener and how to have a good conversation. This is what I would have all the time. I would say to someone very close to me who's similar sort of level, this is what I'm going through, and they would always one up me. So I'll be like, well, fucking, do you know what? I'm feeling shit. Like, this has just happened with the missus. And they'll go, yeah, but this happened with my missus. And then this happened and this happened. So they would always just one up me with their problems. So then I would never feel that I'd got anything out. I'd just be like, well, I'm still just as lonely.
It is. And I think, having people, and again, my school friends, for example, and the friends I associate with, like just normal people with the friends, known me since I was a little kid. So it's quite nice because they don't know the online me or the book or any of that stuff. And it's not they don't care. They're more like, oh, that's, one of my friends went to someone's house for a work-related thing and saw my book in their bookshelf. And he was like, what the fuck? And he didn't know I'd had a book. We kind of all lost touch a bit and we're all like really reconnected again now. And he was just like, he opened it and he's like, that's fucking Dan. Like, I went to school with him. He's one of my best mates back then. So, again, it's random how, I've done a tangent. I don't know where I was going. I'm leaving this in the edit. Any podcast I ever do, there's always a bit where I start something and I've fucking gone off on one. But
I think it's about, I think, no, you're dead on point. No, you're dead on point, I think, because you go to your mates and they don't understand your struggles, and they just have this imprint of your past, and you're trying to be, they don't, because you haven't shared what you're going through currently, or you've disconnected from them. When you do come to, like, I had this, it's like when my marriage broke down, I was embarrassed because my mates had great marriages. I didn't want to share that with them. I was like, I just see a couple of my mates and they got such great marriages, and then we have like a lads weekend where we go somewhere. We'll go somewhere, get drunk round a fire. We just sit, get drunk. We go to a few places. And I just said, like, said about, oh, by the way, guys, I'm on the couch. I think my marriage is ending. And then one of the guys went, yeah, well, actually, I've been on the couch last week. I was like, why the fuck are we not talking about this? I was like, we had this group called Life Wins. And then I was like, this is bullshit. We're getting together. We're talking about all the great stuff we're doing. But
none of the shit stuff.
None of the shit stuff. And guys do that all the time. It's like, so I said, like, guys, what the fuck is going on? And then each one of us, and we went for that beer that night, they were like, yeah, this is not going well for me right now. And I was like, right, we need to start talking about this more and more. And that was a big changing point I'm quite lucky that our dynamic as a group of mates shifted in that point. But I think loads of guys, even listening to the podcast, like, who have you got to go and say, listen, this is really, I'm struggling with this right now. And I think that's what the value of our mastermind has been, is guys starting to say, hey, I'm struggling with this right now, and literally 15, 20, 30 guys saying, yeah, by the way, I've been there, I've been there, I've gone through that. And I think that's what, talking about the event as well, Dan, one of the things that when we created Men's Business, the event, we wanted to bring together a room full of guys who really wanted to start to change the narrative in their own lives around business, life, psychological wellness. They wanted to perform at the best, and finding out you had such a massive just like investment in the men's space in terms of like men's psychological wellness was actually amazing, because you can see that what I've noticed is that you said before about being vulnerable. You are like super vulnerable as a person. You take risks even as you consult with us. You'll say things to us that no one else will say. And like, that's vulnerable. Like, I remember getting off a call with you after work, and me and Peter did a call with you, and you were like, I was like, holy shit, like, that's a big risk to just come out and say that stuff. And it's having people in your life that are willing to say that stuff to you. And I think that's so fucking powerful. And like,
it's the old thing, isn't it? Like, a true friend will tell you what you want, what you need to hear, rather than you want. And I've learned, and the reason I've done so well as a sort of coach, consultant, mentor, is because I will just tell people what they need to hear. And if it pisses you off, if it gets your back up, if you get triggered, if you call me names, I'm like, cool. Well, do you know what? Even if you fucking terminate our agreement now, I've done the right thing. That's it. But the thing I wanted to put on to, because whenever I do a podcast, I like to give some sort of, tactical stuff and things that I do with myself and my clients, is very, very brief, quick story on this one. 2020 was, I've done this throughout my career, but 2020 was particularly spicy. A very short version. I had a couple of vehicles of mine stolen. Then COVID kicked in for all of us. I also own a gym, so I had to close that. My boys that work for me, I've had them since they're teenagers, so obviously kind of looking after them. Then my dad passed away from cancer. Then I got run over on my motorbike. As years go, it wasn't my best. And because I was physically couldn't go anywhere for a while due to being run over, I took stock and I thought about things. And I thought, do you know what? I've had a great life. I've made a huge difference. I've sold 1 million+ books. I've helped a lot of people. Yeah, some people are going to think I'm a complete fucking arsehole, and that's something I've come to terms with. We're all the villain in someone's story. But on the whole, I've done some good work and I've made some differences. But I thought, you know what? I haven't really done much for me for a while. And I had this concept of just radical self-honesty. And I talked about it in my book, and I read my own book, which sounds weird. I thought, right, I'm going to take my own medicine. And this is something I did. So for those of you who are not with this, Stripe is a payment processor. So it shows you what comes in, just like a PayPal, but just for like online businesses and stuff. So I went through all my business accounts. I went through all my accounting. I went through my camera roll. I went through my Facebook memories, and I literally correlated them. When was I, being my most successful, at my most ease? When was I sharing good content? When was I happiest? And I just started to build up a little picture. And I found there was a few sweet spots where, and I could even tell when I was really happy because I was sharing really useful stuff and I was doing a lot. When I was unhappy, I was just fucking around sharing memes and dumb shit. So it took me a weekend to do. And I did that, and then I was just dead honest. I went through my finances, my relationships, friendships, physique, all this kind of stuff. And I thought, cool. And I made a list, and it was I wasn't sort of hating on myself. I was like, right, I'm going to try and, treat myself like a scientist, step back, look at Dan and his life on a Petri dish. And let's just write down data. And I just literally made a list of all the things that I wasn't happy about, weren't serving me, weren't good. And then I thought, cool, went through that list. Which out of those, say 2 right now, are causing me the most pain, whether that be physical, financial, or emotional? And I thought, fuck it, that's where I start. And then I would, every 90 days or so, I would do another audit and I would look at everything again and I would score myself out of 10. I have, it's not a pitch for anyone listening, but I have a planner that does this. It's got a list of things and it's like health, wealth, business, relationships, network, friends. There's a list of things and I score myself out of 10 every month. And my goal is just to move a couple of those scores up a decent chunk. So I'm not trying to fix everything. So the first thing for me was getting my health and fitness in order because I felt like shit. I looked like shit. And I thought, well, that's, but business was good. Business was good. So I thought, right, I can maintain that. Now I'm going to focus on that. So I got my health and fitness up. So cool. Now let's have a look again. Do you know what? My relationships, friendships and connections, that was something that was causing me pain. So I reconnected with my school friends. I joined not sort of club, but I sort of went to the kind of spit and sawdust type gyms and boxing again. So I wanted to reconnect with other men. I wanted to, my boys, as well as make some new boys, which as we get older, it's harder to make new friends. And I got some great friends from the internet, but it's like not the same as having your boys around. And then I did that and I thought, okay, what else do I want? It's like, well, I want an awesome partner. I had some great relationships, met some wonderful people. And I thought, what's my ideal partner like? I treated it like almost like a business strategy. And I thought, well, this is the sort of person I want. And then this was something that, and this was not my word, and I wish I could remember who said it, but he said, does your ideal girlfriend, wife, partner want that? Pointed at you. And I was like, oh no. So I was like, okay. But I didn't take it personally. I was like, okay, cool. So what do I need to change? And it wasn't about being a bad person or something wrong. I thought, okay, well, let's work on some things. There's also a couple of things I learned from Robert Glover's books. I read that book, fantastic book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. Still think it's a title that really doesn't do it justice because it's actually a really, really fucking good book on self-development and boundaries and life. But there's a couple of things I was like, oh, I do those. And I was like, shit, okay, well, I didn't know I was doing them. So I'm glad I read this. Well, let's fix those things. And I just treated my growth like a project to the point where business was awesome. I'm in good shape. Everything was good. And I thought, right, now I'm in a right place to maybe, move to my next level and so on and so forth. And it sounds really simple and basic, but that's what I do. I score myself out of 10 on the key areas in my life, pick a couple of things, double down on them, get them sorted, then I go on to the next one. That is it. And for those people listening, I just want to give you a little something that you might want to take away. Because that's all, honestly, it sounds so basic, but that's what I do. Out of 10, get my scores up. Simple.
Well, we've had that very same conversation today. That's what we were talking about you before. Like, and just being transparent. Like that's what the advice that Dan was giving us is like being really, really clear on getting clear on what we're committing to. And I think that's something that, when I see men, they're spraying their energy, like literally spraying, and then literally everywhere. Not.
I just got to say it for those because obviously those listening won't see this. My eyebrow just raised, and I was is that the right term to use?
But it is because
like a hose gun.
Yeah, well, no, but they're like that's what happened is like when you put your thumb at the end of the hose.
It didn't go that far anymore, boys. As I like saying to my lads, I'm 42 now, and my boys that work for me in their late 20s are like, everything still works, lads. You just got to focus a bit more.
Yeah, it's a thumb splint. Yeah, so it's got, but like that's what happens. Is it we have guys coming in and like we just say like what's your offer, or get the fundamentals in place and get this right, and all of a sudden their income gets better, their energy gets better, and they just start to really focus in on the things that move the needle. And not a lot of guys are getting that kind of support and advice, and I think that's why it is important for them to be introduced to people like yourself who's sharing that, because it's a lot of guys who are in their workplace will never talk about that, or guys that they meet at a networking event aren't going to talk about that because they're not doing it. And that's I
think it's because a lot of the ways, for example, I don't drink, for example, like I used to, but I don't anymore. So the pub was a traditional thing. I used to play rugby back in the day. Well, I don't do that anymore. Like as I've got older, there's less opportunities to like hang out with other guys. And part of the reason I gravitated towards the sort of like, sort of powerlifting-y old school sort of gyms and the boxing places, because that's, quite a masculine environment. And I realized that I just needed to be around that masculine energy and more men and who we could just talk to, just normal people from all walks of life. And I do think, guys, one thing we need is to be around other men. That's it. And it's, nothing against, women or any other gender whatsoever, nothing against that at all. But I know as a man man, if I speak to another man, they'll have a different perspective as a woman. As much like some of my female friends, partner, mum, sister, all that kind of stuff, they're going to have a different experience because they're a woman. And it's like we can still empathize. A couple of my best friends are women, but I also realize I need that male energy and that male approach as well. And that's was something that was lacking from my life. And I realized that, and I thought, right, I need to make double down and getting that back in. And which one I started bringing all my boys back together again, because they had the same thing. They all had the same thing.
Yeah, we actually did the interview with Robert Glover, and you're echoing word for word what he said. And he said, like, a lot of guys, when they need support, they feel like they need to turn towards the feminine. But actually, you get way, way better support from the masculine. And since he said that, I was like, holy shit. I feel so much better when I gone to a problem about my life to my dad. And I used to always go to my mum. And I didn't even realize that. And then I started going to my dad about things, and we actually have really good conversations about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit. And it's the same for guys, is that when they're feeling down or feeling, they need support, they'll go to their wife. But actually, going to the group of mates, it brings them up. Like, when I'm around my mates, I feel up afterwards, not, I feel totally different.
I think the thing is, one thing I've learned, and it's something that I've fallen in this trap before in relationships where I've expected my partner to be everything. Whereas actually, do you know what? She provides certain things and needs and, is able to give, her perspective and empathy and kindness, love, affection, all that kind of stuff. But, I've got certain friends that I have other certain relationships and conversations with, and I've got my boys to do other things, which is kind of, a different kind of perspective on stuff. One person can't be everything to you, and you need a mix. And I think for those, again, because, I don't have children, I want children. I also work with a lot of clients who have children, so I spent a lot of time understanding the dynamics and stuff. Like, I don't ask people with parents to do stuff which is ridiculous. Like, people with children, but it's ridiculous because, like, there are a lot of people in my position who are like, so yeah, get up at 5 o'clock, dip your balls in fucking ice water, fucking do 200 push-ups. It's like, you do realize my child has come in and poked me in the eye for 20 minutes and I've got to go, shut up, you fucking cretin. So I'm very understanding of the realities of life. But you do need a release. You do need someone you can talk to. And it's like a case of, and same for like, your partners as well. They need someone to talk to and vent to and share with, because it's, we all need someone. And, if you haven't got someone, because it's the all right for you kind of thing. Like, I was at a point where I ran my business. I was in charge of everything. I didn't actually have anyone to talk to apart from me mum, because my dad had passed away by that point. And I was like, I need to sit. And I didn't feel sad. I thought, okay, well, again, I treated it like a project. So who do I know? Who do I trust? So again, got my school friends back together. So that was the lowest hanging fruit. Got a group chat, started us chatting, got us hanging out again. That's a big part of my life. And then I was just like, well, where do other people like me hang out and interact with? So if you're not in a good place right now and you don't have that connection, or you don't have a partner, or you don't have a friend, or you don't have maybe any plans to growth, or you just feel like life's in a rut or whatever, like, I completely empathize with you. I have been there at points myself. And honestly, you're allowed to feel shit. You're allowed to feel a bit shit for a bit. Then you've got to start doing something about it. You can't fix everything all at once. And like I said, with my little scoring system, just, take some time to think, what's causing me the most pain? What actually, if I'm really honest, if I get that sorted, it's going to trend up. And it's not fast. It's not quick. But in time, and I have this phrase, future you will thank you. Like, I am now future me. When it's literally 2 years basically since the anniversary of being run over. I'm the leanest, fittest, strongest I've been since my 20s, with a metal hip and having been run over. I feel very grateful that happened, because it inspired me to change things and do things differently. But I knew when I came out of hospital in a fucking Zimmer frame, I thought, right now, this is not me at my best. But if I keep doing these things, my future will turn up at some point. I'll be glad I did it. And that's something that, again, is a little something I kind of want to end off with, is just, if you're not where you are, where you want to be, you're feeling a bit low or flat, be honest with yourself, identify some of the key pay points, pick a couple to work on, work out some actions and steps to take that you can do consistently without breaking yourself, and keep going. That's it.
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing all that, because I think when you're in your place where you're struggling so much, pragmatic, easy, implementable stuff is like, I think it's few and far between. You see, we go through your reels on Instagram and stuff like that, and people are telling you to go and get an ice bath outside your house to, cure your mental health issues and all this sort of stuff. And it seems so far from where you are. And it's come back to the same thing about the men's space. Is like, a lot of the things being advertised to people about how to take steps forward are so far from where they actually are.
I mean, that sort of stuff does work. I mean, one of my best mates does that every morning, and he's a big advocate of it. But he's also ex-military, and he's very, very able. He was in from, I don't know when he went in, I think maybe 16. But a big part of his life was you get up, you just do things. So it's easier for some people to do it. But, I went through the phase of doing cold showers and morning exercise and all this kind of stuff. And you do have to find what works, and you got to be honest with yourself. Am I just putting it off because I don't want to do it, or I'm being a bit lazy, or is it because it's shit and it's not working and I don't want to do it and it's rubbish? Okay. There's all different ways to improve yourself and do things, but it's a case of often it's the most simplistic things that help. And for those of you listening that have maybe done some sort of personal development or growth or business, and you see all these things marketed to you, it's always tactics and gimmicks and achieve this in X days and stuff like that. Yeah. Sometimes you need a little burst just to get you going, but it is these simple basics repeated for time. And I am Mr. Get Shit Done. I want my fucking results now, yeah? But I've learned as I've got older to trust the process, stay the course, get expert advice to kind of get me on the right track, and course correct as I go. And just by taking that philosophy, I'm the fittest, healthiest, happiest, most peaceful, most successful I have been ever.
Yeah. Thank you, Mum.
You're welcome.
Guys, listening in, if you've enjoyed the podcast with Dan, you can have a little bit more of Dan, the men's business event at the end of January. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through all of the pragmatic expert advice from real experts. We've got Dan, Robert Glover, myself and Pete speaking at the event. And we are, we're experts. We work in the trenches day in, day out with men who are looking to transform their life in some arena, whether that's business, whether that's with their family, whether that's being a great man, great in their relationship, having more time, having more money. We're going to go through the whole cascade, and we'd love to have you join us. So if you've enjoyed the podcast, head on over to www.awakenedman.org/events. Is it events, Pete?
Correct.
/events. Check out the Awakened Man event. Grab yourself a ticket. Come for an intimate experience with the three of us. It will be hugely rewarding, and I'm sure it will make a massive impact on your 2023. Dan,
awesome.
Thank you for today.
Welcome. Thanks for inviting me. And to anyone listening, like I said, one thing I will say is you have every right to think I'm an absolute complete cock after listening to this, which is super fine. I'm a big believer in being a sovereign individual, and you can think, feel, do whatever the fuck you want. But even if what your takeaway is I don't want to be like this guy, then you've got a takeaway. But if you've got some great takeaways from it, I hope you have. I tend to talk. These podcasts are a little more condensed than I'm used to, so I've tried to cram in some stories, some useful stuff, some actionable tips. I hope you got value from it. And honestly, whether you liked or disliked me, I just want everyone to have the best possible life they can. Yeah. And if you're not there right now, I said you have my empathy, but it can change, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Pete.
Cheers, guys.